So the biggest struggle right now among DC fans is this big transition that's happening from what Warner Brothers has done for the past couple of years and how James Gunn is now taking over the DC franchise, or the entire universe at that, and is doing a complete reboot of all the characters and a brand new approach by essentially quote-unquote Marvelizing the DC universe with Superman, Batman, Aquaman, and many upcoming characters to be redone. Now, when it comes down to Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom, featuring Jason Momoa, Patrick Wilson, and let's not forget about the most of all that is really driving a lot of drama into this film, Amber Heard. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, we know that director James Wan has been confirming a lot of things about the behind-the-scenes drama with Aquaman 2 and all the struggles with Warner Brothers and CEO David Zaslav and many different aspects about Amber Heard. And as it turns out, Amber Heard's stance against the backlash, against the box office situation of the latest and last DC movie as we know it, is pretty much seemingly, clear at this point about where DC stands, about where Amber Heard stands with the DC fandom. And let's get into all of this, shall we? Now, one thing about James Wan is that we know that this guy, whether you are a supporter of him or not as a director, he supports Amber Heard through and through. Alright? Now, with Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom already creating, of course, drama over at Warner Brothers and for CEO David Zaslav, one major development has to do with Amber Heard and her reaction to all the backlash coming from fans. What was confirmed through director James Wan when he delivered the following about Amber Heard's stance on the backlash. Getting the chance to end the DCEU has been quite the experience, but I would be lying if it did not come with any challenges. Of course, you can't please everyone, but I know after speaking with Amber about everything and what the fans thought, the critics and just everything, she just told me that she felt fans claiming that she has this massive role just need to shut up and keep quiet, and it was quite a bold response that I wasn't expecting from Amber. She has been through many things and it's been very emotional, and I would be willing to work with her again if I ever get that opportunity in the future. But she feels the fans are overreacting to how much of a presence she has in this film. And I think it's a bit ridiculous too, and I agree with Amber in many ways, but we never intended or even made her role as massive or significant. I always like to call it a moderate role. But yeah, after talking with Amber about the critics, she really got very emotional with me as a director, and someone who really gave her an open and flexible schedule for what she was dealing with during the trial. She feels that there is this need for fans to just remain quiet and ask everyone to not over-exaggerate so much about how big of a role that she was or has in this film. As a director, I really wanted to cut down her role, not for other reasons, but for story-driven reasons. Not anything against her, it's just that we wanted to make this film a bromance and not necessarily a romance. This is a film for brothers, and it works well in our front. I can confirm that Jason did have his differences on set with Amber many times, and it did set us back a bit. We even had to shift our dates around here and there on which scenes needed to get finished in studio. But I am proud of what we have done for WB, and I am most certainly proud to have given Mera a fair role in this last film of the DC Universe before James takes over everything, and I am super excited to see how that all works out. So guys, let me just say one thing about what James Wan is confirming here before I get to the big conclusion. Now, we can see that he is really kind of an apologist, right, for Amber Heard and what she did against Johnny Depp, what she has said before against the fans of all things Warner Brothers, of all things DC, etc., etc. And it really just goes to show you that either James Wan is completely just bowing down to Amber, or Warner Brothers is telling him to make himself come across as a supporter of her. Now, we know that many directors and writers out there have actually come forward that they support Amber Heard and that they're all for her. And this is beginning to become more and more of a trend that really seems like they're trying to get her career back on track, and it's not going to work, in the least in my book at least. But when you look at Amber Heard, when you look at how she is demanding fans to just quote-unquote shut up and remain quiet about over-exaggerating how big of a role that she has, she seems to be getting very much angered over the fact that a lot of fans are saying it's a massive role. Here you have James Wan saying that it's not a massive role, that it's a moderate role at best, and that he watered down her role, as did Warner Brothers, not for other reasons, like he said before, but for story-driven reasons. And he always uses that term bromance, which I think is a little weird, especially for a comic book film. That's just my stance on things. It's just a little bizarre that he always likes to use that word bromance. Now, this is where things get interesting. Let's get into all of this. Now, he goes on to conclude, I am just beginning to work on Cholulu right now before I wrap up promoting The Lost Kingdom. But yes, Amber is just tired and very frustrated with all the noise, and that this is all about I can say right now. And she is just riding the wave, as it seems, to see where her future leads. Her differences with the DC fandom is something that was a struggle for sure, but I think we found the right balance to make things fair for everyone coming into this film, and what David wanted us to do with this sequel that has been very anticipated from Aquaman fans for years. Now, I don't know if Aquaman fans per se, let alone DC fans, were anticipated for this movie to begin with, given that we all knew that Amber Heard was going to have a role in this film. Meanwhile, you have many other actors out there that have gone through similar scenarios that got fired for far less reasons, mind you. Look at what they did with Ezra Miller in The Flash. Look at what they did here with Amber Heard in Aquaman 2. It seems to be a Warner Brothers problem, and really a David Zaslav problem, of throwing in these actors / actresses that have done terrible things, and they throw them in for business purposes because they know that they can't afford to cancel these movies because it's all they really got. So we already know that this movie is a major hit on Warner Brothers. It's really not a good sign for the transition for James Gunn and his DC Universe reboot, so to speak. You know, you're going to have a lot of casual fans out there that aren't really going to know the difference per se between the DCEU and the DC Universe by James Gunn. It's going to be interesting to see what that transition is going to be like. Like I said before, Gunn wants to Marvelize the DC Universe. Alright, we kind of got that a little bit with his overall creative demands for Blue Beetle to kind of make it like a Spider-Man-esque style movie. So overall, I would really like to hear what you all have to say about Amber Heard and how she is getting very defensive, and how James Wan was able to confirm all of this to the general public. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.